Hello and welcome to this third feature on consumer information about solar panel systems. This is being brought to you by the Association for Consumer Rights Malta, and today again we have the pleasure of welcoming Professor Engineer Charles Yousif from the University of Malta. Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. Thanks.
So we have looked a little at what constitutes a solar panel, what things to look for when shopping for solar panels. And today we are going to look at how do we maintain solar panels and anything that you think is worth sharing with our viewers on this slide.
Sure. So, assuming that one has already installed the PV system on the roof, a question that comes to mind, what do I need to do to keep this system operating properly? First of all, PV systems are silent systems. If they fail or they start having problems, you wouldn't know about it. So you have to depend more on your sight, on your eyes, on what you see, rather on what you hear.
But the panels would be sometimes far from sight. How do we, Prof Yousif, manage to know what's going on with our silent panels?
Yes. So the first thing that one can use is to monitor the PV meter, the meter that records how much energy has been produced. Ideally, one should record, if not on a daily basis, but at least on a weekly basis, to know how much energy was produced. And that record helps you to compare 1 month in a particular year to the same month in the next year. If you see a marked difference that cannot be explained by, for example, different weather conditions, then most probably you have some sort of failure in the system. So taking note of the readings, it's a very easy and quick way of checking that your system is producing as much as you would expect.
And
tell me, please.
Meter is very accessible to all of us when we have it, right?
Yes.
So it isn't as difficult as it might sound, because now that I have been doing it, it's really just opening where the compartment where it is and seeing that it is still operating. And if one just takes, as you said, once a month, it doesn't have to be on a daily basis, although of course one can be a perfectionist in that way, but it's just worth keeping track so that if things are not working, we catch it not after 3 months and having lost those 3 months, but let's say once a week.
Yeah. Nowadays, some systems come with apps that you can install on your mobile, and you can track the output even second by second. So that is also very useful if your inverter has this facility of being connected to the internet, and through the app, you can actually monitor your system.
That does sound helpful, yes.
Yeah. And if you have microinverters or optimizers, you can actually track the performance of each and single PV panel. So you have means and hows to make sure that your system is at least on. Because sometimes the mini circuit breaker, the switch in the mains box might trip, either because of a lightning strike, and you wouldn't realize. So another way of visually checking is to look at the switches of the PV system and make sure that they are on and not have tripped accidentally due to some lightning strike or likewise. So that is something else that one needs to pay attention to.
I have to admit that is something that with my solar panels I have found to happen not frequently but often. There could be maybe some voltage surge in the national grid that triggers it, maybe, I don't know. But it is definitely, as you're saying, worth just simply having a look at the switch, because it can go off and it's just a matter of switching it back on. So it's a very easy step to make.
Yeah. With regards to other types of maintenance, one may ask how many times should I wash the PV panels to remove dust and other deposits from birds or from diesel engines, black soot, and so on. It depends. It is site specific. If you are very close to a quarry, obviously you need to wash it very often. If you are very close to a dumping site, probably you need to wash it more often, because it depends of what type of traffic is passing in front of your dwelling and what type of deposits are coming on the PV panels. Moreover, depending on the inclination of the PV panels, if the panels are inclined at a good 30 degrees, then the possibility of having too many deposits on it is lower than having a PV panel which is only at 10 degrees. So that also makes a big impact on the amount and the quality of dirt that can deposit on a PV panel. In general, if you are just living in the city and there is normal, everyday traffic and so on, once a month should suffice. Obviously, in summer, one might need to have a look more often than in winter, because in winter we have more rain and that helps to wash the panels more frequently. How to wash it? That's important.
Any safety tips as to when cleaning them?
Yeah, ideally the panels should be washed early in the morning, before sunrise or just about sunrise. Obviously, this is something that is not very convenient to many people. So the other option will be to wash it well after sunset. Why do we say well after sunset? Because the panels will be hot, and if you drop water on them, you are giving them a thermal shock. This thermal shock creates shrinking of the glass and the aluminium frame, with the result that the cells inside, which are still warm, will have thermal stresses and can create micro cracks. Micro cracks cause the panel to age faster. That means the output will be lower in a much faster manner. So we need to avoid these thermal shocks. So we wait until the sun goes down, give it a chance to cool down another hour or so, and then you wash it using water and detergent. You don't need any special materials. Ideally, you use a broom with a wooden handle, and do not wash the panels barefooted. It's much safer to have rubber shoes on. Remember, a PV system is always live. It always has electricity in it, except when it is dark. So when you wash a panel, it is important that there is no sunshine to avoid thermal shock, but also to avoid electrocution in case that the PV system had a fault and you didn't realize that.
Do you switch off the PV system before you wash them?
And that is important, yes, since it is the night, switch it off before you start washing. And of course, remember to switch it on after you finish washing. And it's important also to realize that PV systems produce DC voltage. DC voltage is much more dangerous and deadly than AC voltage. And therefore, one has to seriously avoid being in close contact with a PV system during sunshine hours. Otherwise, once every 2 years, let's say, or once a year, one might need to look at, for example, the cables. if they are still well fixed to the roof or to the frame. If you have used cable ties by time disintegrate because of the UV radiation, and you might need to change the cable ties. Make sure that your PV inverter is in the shade, because when the inverter is in the shade, it operates at a better efficiency, and it is not subjected to strong stresses due to the sun shining on it. Look at this, at the frame. Is there any potential rusting appearing on the metal frame, or is there corrosion near the bolts, especially if the bolts are of a different material than the frame? For example, you have stainless steel bolts connected with aluminum frame. They could create some corrosion over time. Things like that. So you do not need to look for them frequently, but once a year, it's always good to go and have a look at the frame and make sure that it is still tight and not loose, and that the panels are still connected properly to the frame, because with the vibration of the wind, quite often bolts get loosened and so on. And one important thing that we didn't mention maybe is to require the installer to make stainless steel vents to hold the structure in place. It's not enough just to put pieces of stone and tie the PV panels on them. The weight is not sufficient when it comes to gale force winds, and we have seen many examples of PV panels flying over to the neighbors and breaking down other property, and of course making the owner lose their investment.
Very, very useful tips, especially because we want our solar panels to last for a number of years. And I guess, unlike a car, we take a car for a VRT, for a service to the mechanic, but we can't take solar panels, move them. So it is us who have to go to the solar panels and check them out. So if I can sum up, we need to keep an eye on the output, make sure that they are still working, that their circuit breaker hasn't tripped and we just need to put it on. We need to wash them, say, once a month. In general, make sure that we are being safe with rubber shoes and a wooden stick between us and whatever is washing, and checking, say, once a year, checking the frame for any safety issues that might be occurring. Admittedly, the wind is increasing because of climate change, so we do need to watch out and make sure that they are safely connected and kept down to, let's say, the roof. Thank you for this interesting information on maintaining solar panels well and safely. I look forward to another feature in the future. And on behalf of the Association for Consumer Rights, I thank all consumers as well watching this feature. Bye-bye, and until the next time.
Thank you very much.